crud, the battery on the camera just died. The main one that I use usually, maybe it's because of the cold weather. And normally I'd bring a micro USB cord, that's what this uses, but since I upgraded the phone and use USB-C, I've only been carrying that one cord. Oh, what a time. I guess I'll have to be doing the recording, most of them anyways, on the smartphone. Alright, what happened today? I guess the first thing was first, as I mentioned, I went to see the dentist about the issue I was feeling, which I thought was the wisdom tooth. And when they did all the x-rays and so forth, kind of expected people often say afterwards, oh, you need this, you need that, so you gotta determine what do you want done. For example, suggesting things like I need to clean the whole teeth and so forth, because you just can't do it with brushing and all that. And I actually haven't seen a dentist in a long time. And ultimately they said you should remove all the wisdom teeth. And I was thinking maybe not, like I don't want to remove necessarily everything, because I did have some teeth removed, as I mentioned, when I had my braces, and it seemed like it was fine, like for the bottom ones, it's just the top. So I was thinking of just removing the top left one at the moment. And the main pitch for me to do everything at once is because they're saying, oh, you might as well do it when you're young and all that. You'll heal really fast, because when you get older, you won't be able to do this. It'll be such a pain. You'll have all these issues. And to me, it's if there's no issue with a lot of them at the moment, then there's no point, because to my understanding too, they even get you to sign a waiver afterwards. They said if you're going to do this, well, it could lead to complications as well when you remove things like your wisdom tooth. So I'd only remove the stuff that I have an immediate issue with, which is basically this at the moment. And that's honestly the only problem I've ever had all these years. Does that sound like the right choice? At the moment, they said Thursday would be the day they could do basically the removal of the tooth and so forth. Everything else I'd have to think about, because again, a lot of the extra stuff I don't think I really need at the moment. Plus, they're like what, almost like $200 for each stuff. It could usually go over like $1,000 and all that. And honestly, I just need to take care of what's the actual issue at the moment. And one thing I thought was kind of interesting, which other people might find weird, but they were saying how when you get the wisdom tooth pulled out, you'll feel like a lot of pain and stuff afterwards. So you should take things like an Advil. I usually don't take that stuff. I even said myself, because if it's pain, even when I got my other teeth stuff removed, I mean, it wasn't painful or anything. But even for stuff like that, I usually don't need medications or drugs for it. And they seem to think like, what? Who does that? Like, you don't take like a drug for that issue. Shouldn't you try your best to deal with things naturally if you can normally? And if you really can't deal with it, then you take drugs. Kind of like how they say bugs or ants or whatever become immune to pesticides. Wouldn't that be the case for yourself as well if you keep taking drugs and stuff all the time when really your body's good enough to fight it off? That's what I think anyways. Okay, and what did I quickly read today? I read this article which talked about the news media just using drones and how it's I guess you could say, regulated in terms of drones flying with each other, which kind of got me thinking. So in this article it says, drones now an essential part of TV broadcasting. In August 2016, the Federal Aviation Administration implemented Part 107 of its regulations, which governed the use of commercial drones in the US airspace. Many of the nation's TV broadcasters were quick to add drones to their news-gathering arsenal while carefully training their staff in the legal, proper, and safe use of these remotely controlled camera platforms. Fast forward to today, with hundreds of drones now being owned by US TV broadcasting teams, the aerial footage captured on these platforms has gone from being a visual novelty to an essential part of TV news gathering. So this was kind of the interesting thing, because it talked about how there's so much news people flying their drones up in the air, and essentially when you're in, let's just say, the airspace you got approved and all that, it's up to everyone to kind of stay away from each other, so to speak. Like it says in this part, it says competition ends in the air. With ratings at stake, TV news teams are expected to compete aggressively for the best camera angles and eye-catching footage. But this competition ends once the broadcasters' drones get airborne. This is because there is no government-run air traffic control that manage multiple broadcaster drones operating in the same airspace. So when competing stations start flying drones close together to cover a news story, it is up to them to prevent mid-air collisions and debris fallout onto the ground below. Fortunately, the trend in increased drone usage in the US TV market has been accompanied by a new trend towards increased pilot cooperation as well. That's kind of interesting, because even when I fly it myself, I'm usually just flying it up and down. You get the shot. I mean, you shouldn't be crashing into anybody, honestly, unless you're trying something really daring. Although it does make me wonder, because they mentioned that part about how there's no one controlling it, so people have to essentially self-police and monitor themselves. It makes you wonder if reasons like this many times is why they have really strict or over-the-top regulations. Let's just say it's a competitor or a commercial news company saying, we want to be the only ones flying here, so restrict everyone else. We love the idea of that. Makes you wonder in many cases if that's how things like those laws actually develop, just from a commercial person saying they want everything to themselves and they don't want anyone else using it, even though they're doing it safely. I mean, imagine this, talk about news reporting and stuff. I mean, for me, I just capture stuff I see. And whenever I see stuff like even those protests, I capture it because there is what no one else at times, correct? So you can imagine someone else just saying, nope, we don't want you to do it either, so we encourage over-the-top regulations. Makes you wonder. Alright, see you guys later.